Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy, Royal Stoners, back again with another insane story time video. You know, I've been on a little hiatus. I took a trip to the Bahamas, boys and girls, I was out there vibing, alright, man? We was chilling in the Bahamas for a little while, but nah, for real. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the time I got arrested and what led up to me being arrested. Now, I already know what you're thinking. Where the fuck have you been? Well, I just kind of told y'all I got arrested. I was in jail. This video is going to answer every question you guys are thinking or have been thinking, alright? I was, I was on my little getaway, I guess, but I've been working on getting back to normal again. Because when I had relapsed, it led me down like a very dark path. Okay, it was scary, man. It was spooky. It was a very dark path. There was no light. I didn't see no way out. So look, man, I was chasing the dragon hard. All right, and as y'all know, I was sober for like 140 days before that relapse. I had just got out of a rehab that was in a different area than the one I'm at now, but. One thing led to another, and I was back to smoking fucking Roxy's. I was back to, tooting the old Roxy off the foil, man. I was getting fucking zooted too, bro. I'm just gonna be really honest with you. I was smoking Roxy's, man. And what was different about this time, though, was I was also homeless and smoking meth, too, so... I was getting high as fuck, man. I was mixing both of them together. Like, I'd go out and, like, fucking get Roxy's, and then I'd go back to the camp and fucking smoke meth, too, while high on Roxy's. I was just losing my fucking marbles, okay? Now, your boy was tooted up on a fucking Tuesday, alright? Now, it was fucking bad, but I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned was jail is fucking amazing, okay? No, I'm just playing. It's not amazing, man. I was being sarcastic. Jail was one of the worst places I've ever been, okay? But we're going to save all the jail stories and jail talk for future videos because that's a whole series in itself, alright? So... I guess I'm going to explain how this event led up to be and how it all started, okay? So, I was about a good 5 months into my relapse, alright? I was bouncing back and forth from my grandma's house to homeless camps, getting zooted. I was constantly getting caught smoking that sweet, devilish fentanyl before, I got locked up. I was always getting caught smoking that shit in the house. And for those of you who don't know what burning perk smells like, it is one of the most nastiest, stinkiest, disgusting smells you could ever smell, okay? It's like burnt hair and popcorn all in one. And on this particular occasion, I decided to do Xanax, meth, fentanyl, and alcohol, alright? Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why the fuck would you do all three of those? Well... as you guys probably know, if you don't know and you're new to this channel, I take things to another level. And when I was on drugs, I would take it all the way up to the very tippy top. I'd do the most, you feel me? Like, I would do way too many drugs, boys and girls, okay? So, how this day started was exactly like this, alright? I didn't wake up this day. I had been awake for 2 days straight. And I was going through a breakup. I had been dating Lucy for 3 years prior to it, so, your boy was in his feelings. Royal Stoners was in his feelings and not in his bag. That is a crucial step to life, boys and girls. You can't be in your feelings. You always got to be in that bag. Dig deep to the bottom of the bag and get that shit and bring it to the top, boys and girls. Alright, well, anyways, look. Me and Lucy got into a huge fight 3 weeks prior to this because, I went out all day hustling, making ends meet, in order for us to get high. And she was upset because I didn't share my pills equally enough, okay? I didn't share them equally with her. So she got upset and we ended up arguing and I said some mean things to her. I'm pretty sure I called her a bitch or something. I really don't remember, but a lot of this was my fault, okay? I was an asshole. I came back, I gave her like a perk and a piece of a perk. And I had like 6, so... your boy was on that tweaker, junkie, fiend mode. I didn't want to share my perks, man. I was like, fuck it. You weren't out all day busting your ass. I was, so I want to keep them. okay? So, look, I'm going to talk about that more in another video, but, you know, I was up, sad as fuck, and out of meth, you know. I was sad because Lucy had left me. Or, well, really, I left her house that night. I'll tell that story in another video, but, you know, I was sad as fuck after I had just told her I'm never coming back to her house, you know. I was sitting in bed just thinking about how I wish I could be with her right now, but, you know, your boy had $20, you know, $20 in his pocket, big ballin'. So I was thinking about a way I could get as fucking high as humanly possible with just 20 bucks. So, you know, I was up for 2 days straight, piling fentanyl-laced methamphetamine into my body, when I eventually ran out. Now look, y'all are probably gonna, I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all are probably thinking, well, he's just playing about it being fentanyl-laced methamphetamine, because he makes a lot of jokes. No, boys and girls, this shit was fentanyl, or it was methamphetamine that was laced with fentanyl, or ice laced with fentanyl. Because I had a homeboy get arrested with it, and he's got a trafficking fentanyl charge, because it had fentanyl in it. Well, anyways, look, I was piling that shit into my body, and I ran out. You know, when I ran out, I instantly started fiending. Anytime I ran out of meth, guys, I would just instantly want more, bro. I'd constantly crave that feeling. I needed that dopamine, man. So, you know, I was fiending for more drugs, but I had became bored of just meth. So, you know, I thought to myself, what other drug could I do, you know? I was at my grandma's house in my room, and I had nothing else to do. I was like, what drug could I do, man? So, you know, I was scrolling on my phone when I thought of something brilliant. I had remembered that my homeboy Johnson had just got a shipment of these fucking fake pressed bars in the mail from Telegram. So, you know, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some Xanax, you know. If you guys remember Johnson, then you're some real fucking OGs, okay? I should also mention at this point in time, we had all upgraded from our petty drug habits and became real criminals, okay? We were some pretty shitty people. We've got our lives together now, but, you know, it don't matter. We'll talk about these experiences in more videos. I'll get into it more later. So, you know, I hit him up, and I was like, hey, bro, can I slide through and grab some Xans? And usually when I'd hit him up, Johnson would text back almost instantly, and if he didn't text back instantly, it'd be like an hour or two, or a couple days. It just depended on what the fuck Johnson was doing. So, you know, this particular night, Johnson hit me up almost instantly, and when he did, my meth-fueled eyes lit up. I was like, fuck yes, he texted back, and this time it was quick. So, you know, of course he said slide through. So, you know, I started plotting. I was like, okay, I don't have a car or a license. I had sold my car for fake perks early into my relapse, so, you know, I can't drive a car with no license. And, I had no urge to do anything besides numbing my pain with drugs. So I got up and ran to my living room, right? I got up just like a kid on Christmas and asked my grandma for a ride, okay? This is stupid, but at first she was like, what the fuck? Where the hell do you need to go at 8 in the middle of the night, Royal Stoners? Why? What is wrong with you? I said, listen, Grandma, I want to go see Johnson for a minute. He's in town and I miss him so dearly. Now at first, guys, she was skeptical. She was like, fuck no. She was like, hell no, we're not taking you anywhere at this time of night. You're going to get drugs, aren't you? You're going to get fucking high. I know it. And I was like, no, I just want to go see Johnson, okay? Look, quit interrogating me like the police, Grandma. I just want to go see my friend, okay? Now, eventually, after an hour of asking her, she said, fuck it, get in the car, Royal Stoners. Get the fuck in the car before I kill you. So, you know, I put on my big boy boots, and I got in the car, and I started heading to the other side of town where Johnson was. The whole ride there, I was ecstatic. I was feeling like a kid on Christmas who had the richest white parents alive, you know? So here I was, riding in the car with my grandma on the way to get my Xans, and eventually we pulled up to the trap, alright? We pulled up to Johnson's, and look, guys, my grandma was letting me know how much of a piece of shit I was the whole ride there. So it was kind of rough on the way there. I'm not even gonna lie. I was getting bitched at the whole time, but it was my fault. Everything that went wrong in this story had something to do with me. So, you know, I got out the car, And I texted Johnson letting him know that I had arrived. And he said, "Here I come." And after waiting like 5 minutes, he came out. And I said, "What's up, man? How you doing?" I dabbed him up and, I said, "So what you got for me, man?" And he put out these Zans that looked identical to real bars. Like, you could just show these bars to someone and say, "Yeah, they came out of a pill bottle," and they'd probably believe you. They looked really, really real. So they were shiny, little pressed good bars, and he threw me up, guys. He did your boy Royal Stoners right. He gave me 6 bars for $20, which is like $3 or $4 a bar, not that bad. And he did that, though, because we've known each other for so long. That's just how my homeboy Johnson is. He's a really good person, alright? So, I told him thank you, man. And we had a pretty awkward conversation because I was in active addiction. He could tell I was high as fuck. But, after talking to him for a second, I got back in the car. And my grandma instantly knew what was up. So immediately she started getting even more mad at me. She was yelling and I was like, "Chill, all I did was say what's up." And she wasn't buying it though. So, I mustered through the car ride, getting yelled at and borderline abused. And we were almost at my house, alright? We were about to pull up to the cribby. But while we were driving, I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, so I got these Zans here. And I'm thinking, I'm going to just pop 2 right now to start the night off, alright? So I secretly undo them in my hand with one hand, and I popped 2 without my grandma noticing. And by the time we were at home, I only had 3 left. Now, I know what you're thinking. You got 6 bars. Where the fuck did the other one go? I ended up taking 3 on the car ride home, guys. So now I had some benzos in my system, and I was feeling litty like a titty. The only problem now was I had no meth. So, as soon as the Zans kicked in, I got home. And almost as soon as I got home, I started craving everything. Xanax makes me want to do every drug under the fucking sun. It had me feeling like I was Scrim from Suicide Boys. I just wanted to get as high as humanly possible. And I wanted to steal shit. So, I was in my room plundering when I came across a $5 bill. It was like the second Christmas miracle of the night, okay? So, as soon as I found it, I was like, holy shit, thank you, God. And I thought to myself, damn, I should get a Steel Reserve right now. That would be fire. So, I put my big boy boots on again that I had just recently taken off, and I walked in my happy ass to the gas station. On the way to the gas station, I was skipping and clacking my heels, and whistling and shit and waving to everybody that wasn't there because I was hallucinating. And, not much happened on the way there, but when I got there, I walked inside to the tiny corner gas station, and I said what's up to, your average Indian dude that works at a gas station. I dabbed him up. We did our little handshake that we did with each other when I walked in. I'm just playing. No, but this dude was cool. But, okay, look. This guy knew me pretty well and never ID'd me, so, it was perfect. Alright, so I walked to the back, barred out of my fucking mind, and I grabbed me a normal Steel Reserve. We don't fuck with fruity Steel Reserves around here, boys. If you fuck with them, you just go. I'm just playing, but anyways, when I grabbed it, I walked to the front and I purchased my Steel Reserve, like the American that I am. And on the way back, I was stumbling and forgetting where I was at, but somehow by the grace of God, I made it home. I walked inside, I headed to my room, and I cracked open a cold one by myself. I wasn't with the boys, I was by myself getting loaded. So, I was sitting back on my bed, drinking my beer like a mafia boss, and I decided to call Jack the Goon. I was thinking, I was like, man, I gotta have someone to talk to. So, I was like, Jack the Goon, you have been nominated. So, I called him and we talked for a minute. I was fucked up, man. I was more turnt than 2 turnt Tony on a Tuesday. But somehow, I was chatting it up with him still. Even though I was slurring my words and acting like a retard, we were chopping it up, okay? We talked for a good, 30 minutes, boys and girls. But we got off the phone and I got up. And I was like, man, I gotta call you back in a minute, right? I had an idea. I had some genius idea in my brain, alright? I don't remember what it was, but I walked to my kitchen, beer in hand, and I walked into my laundry room, and this is where the first tragedy happens. This is where the first tragedy strikes. So, I was doing too many things at once, and I dropped my beer genuinely everywhere, just all over the floor in the laundry room. It was a real tragedy. I'm sure I started crying, but Right after that happened, you know, I pulled out my phone and did the only thing that was possible in this situation. I started recording because your boy wanted to show Jack the real tragedy that had occurred, okay? I didn't clean it up right away. I just grabbed my phone out and I started recording it because I wanted them to see what had happened, alright? After recording the video, I noticed the bar and alcohol combination was smacking me down in the face. Like just full on smackdown like WWE. It was fucking me up, man. I was really high, but for some reason I wanted more. You know, what I've realized getting sober is when I was on drugs and alcohol, I never felt like I had enough. I could never just do like 2 or 3 drugs. I always wanted loads of shit. I wanted to do different drugs at the same time. But anyways, you know, I hit a moment where I made the decision that I needed more meth. I was like, you know what, meth would be nice right now. I mean, I wanted this other drug because I was getting bored of meth, but now that I've got this other drug, I want to do meth too. So, once this idea hit my brain, it was on, man. I got up, I left my room, and I told my grandma I was too fucked up to be at home. And I didn't want my little brother seeing me high, so I said, come on, can you please take me to my friends? And she said, get in the car, Royal Stoners. You are not, you know, I feel really stupid for doing this shit, but I'm gonna keep on going, alright? I was now barred out, drunk, and on my way to a homeless camp to smoke some meth. Keep in mind, me and Lucy had just fell out at this homeless camp, and this homeless camp is where her and her new man hung out and got high too. You know, she had got a new boyfriend. We broke up. This dude, they would hang out at the homeless camp that we were hanging out at all the time, and it was just weird going over there after we had broken up. But anyways, look, you know, on the way there, my grandma was begging me to get sober and change my life and just stay at home with them, but I wasn't hearing it. I was blinded by drugs, man. I mean, she was crying and everything, but all I wanted was more drugs and to stay on a steady level of high. I had no care for anything else, guys. I'm just being honest with y'all, and that's what drugs and alcohol do, man. It's not a fun thing to do, guys. It's pretty bad. You know, that's just how strong my addiction was and how much a hold of drugs and alcohol, you know, how much of a hold they had on me. I was fighting some serious demons and being extremely selfish, but eventually we pulled up beside this Walmart on this little road where 4 nights prior I had thought I was getting set up by my ex. You know, after having been awake for too long, I went into a psychosis and thought I got set up by my ex, but I think it really did happen. I don't know, man. I don't really know. I couldn't tell you, but you know, the last thing my grandma said was, please don't go. You're gonna get hurt or in trouble. And you know, I said, no, I got my big boy boots. I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna get hurt. I said, I'm sorry, and I got out. You know, looking back and remembering this now, I feel sad about it. I regret doing this shit so much. But, you know, we can't go back and change things, so anyways, I got out. And I headed up this dirt road heading straight to the meth city, aka Tent City. If y'all want to know what Tent City is like, I'll sort of explain it. Also, don't mind the person in the background. There's somebody here with me, and they're not paying no attention to me. But anyways, it was a place where people like myself hid from the world and did meth all the time. It was their full-time job. They all just flew signs and hustled all day in order to get methamphetamine. At the time, it was the place I loved the most. I loved the adrenaline, you know, that I got from running from the cops and having to hide from them. And living what I felt like was on the edge. I was really lost. You know, I got to Tent City, and sure enough, there was Lucy and her new boyfriend. I was so fucked up, though, I didn't care, you know. I was like, what up, guys? What's poppin', you know? And made sure it was okay for me to be there. The reason I made sure was because, you know, a few nights prior, I did too many drugs and in my head got set up by them. And now I say this loosely still because I honestly don't know if it happened or not. I like to think it did, but they said it didn't, so I really don't know. You know, I'll tell that story another day, but I'm going to give the people I was with some different names. And then I'm going to, like, kind of describe the area that I was at, alright? So we had Billy, Matt, Lucy, Tracy, Bam, Stephanie, and we're going to call Lucy's new boyfriend Mikey. Okay, so, you know, Billy and Tracy, they were boyfriend and girlfriend. And, you know, Mikey and Lucy were dating, so But we're gonna talk about Billy and Tracy, alright? Billy and Tracy, you know, because of drugs, there's some nasty motherfuckers. I'm just not gonna sugarcoat it. They don't take showers. Billy's a nasty ass person. He's kind of tall with a beard, and he's skinny and flies a sign and don't take showers. He smells like a garbage can. But his girlfriend Tracy, she's even lovelier. She's a heavier set lady. God bless this woman's soul. She can hardly walk, and I'd help her a lot because I felt her pain. And you know, she had to deal with Billy 24/7, which I genuinely had no idea how she was able to accomplish that, because Billy was hard-headed and stupid. He was hard to deal with, for real. I mean, I guess he was alright, but I was just on drugs, so I thought everybody was cool. But you know, sometimes she'd leave for drugs and Billy would freak out because he's obsessed with her. But let's talk about Matt. Matt's a very interesting character. He's schizophrenic. Every time he hit that meth, man, he'd lose his fucking mind. I swear. He's like the same age as me, but he's 1 year older and lives on the streets, man. Okay, so Matt, he's got this little goatee, and he's also a huge fan of ICP. And for those of you who do not know what that is, the man's a juggalo, man. He's down for Insane Clown Posse. You know, he's turned up about him, alright? I don't think there's ever been a time since I met this kid where he wasn't either freaking out or freestyling and talking about ICP. Now, I say freestyling, I also say that loosely because he wasn't the best, but I can't say shit because I can't freestyle, and I don't. So, you know, I don't know why meth makes people rap gods. Maybe it's got something to do with how it speeds you up and makes you think more, but it definitely did that to a lot of people that I knew. It makes you want to freestyle over the most gangster beat imaginable. But look, meth is just a horrible drug, alright? We weren't even doing meth, we were doing ice, but we're going to get into Bam and Stephanie out. We're going to get them out the way, those lovely human beings. But we're going to get them out the way because you all know Lucy. So, alright, Bam, he's a heavier dude. He's bald and has a tattoo right on the top of his head. He's pretty distinct looking. He looks like Gru from Despicable Me, but with a tattoo. Stephanie and Bam are a couple that argue a lot. They argue a shit ton, and it's fucking hilarious. But you know, Stephanie's a lady with very short hair. I'm surprised that she's not a dyke for real, but she's cool, I guess. But you know, Bam's a raging methaholic prick. I hate that motherfucker, but we gotta talk about Lucy's new boyfriend, alright? We gotta get him out the way too, and then I'm gonna make a part 2 on this because this video is getting long as hell. Alright, so Mikey, he's something. He ain't a horrible person, I don't think. I mean, at least he didn't come off as bad from the times when I was around. But you know, Mikey, he could actually rap. He was a beast at that shit, I'll give him that. You know, throwing any beat and this dude was going bananas. But just like every other person I mentioned and myself, we had a kryptonite, and that was meth. It turned us all into monsters. But I'm sure everyone but Bam is a really good person sober. You know, fuck Bam. Anyways, so we're gonna get into more of the story in the next one. If y'all like this video, let me know down below in the comments, and like the video. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll be posting more videos soon. So yeah, peace.